These celebrations mark the 350th birthday of the world's most famous monument of love, the Taj Mahal in India. Built by Emperor Shah Jahan as a testament to his eternal love for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died in childbirth, the Taj Mahal is one of the 7 wonders of the world and India's most visited monument. While school children released heart-shaped balloons, outside the monument on the banks of the Yamuna river, a pair of actors dressed as Shah Jahan and Mumtaz held hands, recreating the 17th century romance between the emperor and the nobleman's daughter. The Taj Mahal stands on a marble platform surrounded by ornamental gardens. White minarets grace each corner, and 2 smaller red sandstone buildings balance the postcard-perfect image on the banks of the Yamuna river. Historians say Shah Jahan consulted experts from the Middle East and Europe as he planned the mausoleum, which took 20,000 people over 22 years to build. Although there is some dispute about when it was finished, the government and the Archaeological Survey of India say it was in 1654. So devastated was Shah Jahan by her death, legend says his hair turned grey overnight. Coinciding with the start of these celebrations, the Supreme Court heard a petition by local government to allow night visits to the Taj, located in the polluted and congested city of Agra, about 200 kilometres south of New Delhi. This ban was imposed in 1984 following reports that the monument was a target of militant groups, and was reinforced in 2000 over concern about preserving the site. But the surface of the onion-domed monument has become yellow over the years because of automobile fumes, smoke from small factories, a large oil refinery near Agra, and funeral pyres at a nearby cremation ground. Some years ago, authorities used packs made of brown clay to restore the original white of the marble mausoleum. A lonely pensioner who turned to Italy's classified pages to find someone willing to adopt him as a grandfather has found a new home and family in northern Italy. Giorgio Angelozzi, 80, has lived alone outside Rome with 7 cats since his wife died in 1992. He has a daughter, but she is working for a charity abroad. Recently, he took the unprecedented step of putting himself up for adoption via the Corriere della Sera newspaper. Not satisfied with just running the advertisement, Italy's main daily ran a front-page story about Angelozzi's plight. His appeal struck a chord in family-loving Italy, where up to 4 generations have traditionally lived under the same roof, or at least in the same neighbourhood. Inundated with offers from families across Italy and as far away as New Zealand, Brazil and the United States, the retired schoolteacher has decided to go live with Elio and Malena Riva and their 2 teenage children in northern Italy. His new home boasts a garden with apple, cherry and pomegranate trees, and a beagle called Pablo to replace his cats. The former classics teacher told potential families he would contribute €500 a month to expenses, but the Rivas say what they really want is a grandfather. Polish-born Malena Riva and her Italian husband Elio have happily taken Giorgio in. Mrs. Riva's family still live in Poland, and Mr. Riva lost both his parents and a brother in quick succession. Despite having two children aged 18 and 16 years old, they both feel in need of a granddad close at hand. Angelotti's 7 cats stayed behind where the neighbours are feeding them. The Riva family has agreed to take the cats as well, so as soon as Angelotti decides that his new life suits him, the cats will be able to join him. Today, 1 in 5 Italians is over the age of 65, and almost half of them live alone, partly because of the more mobile lifestyle of younger generations. Italy also has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe. Gathered around makeshift tents in one of the remotest parts of mountainous Afghanistan, dozens of children eagerly wait to hear the whistle calling them for class. But the students of this school get more than an education. They get food for attending class. School attendance has soared in Afghanistan since the fall of the Taliban, but lack of resources, remote locations, and the need for help with work at home means that many children are still not getting the education they need. The World Food Programme has been running a program to encourage millions of children across the country to attend school by offering them food in return. 400 kilometres northeast of Kabul, village settlements in the Wakhan corridor are scattered across the country's hard-to-reach northern border. Dotted along plateaus at the base of the Pamir mountain, which at 6,849 metres is one of Afghanistan's highest peaks, the 14 schools operating in the 200-kilometre-long corridor are among the most remote in the country. In some cases, the children have to walk for up to 3 hours across rugged mountain terrain to attend classes. With 6 months of harsh winter in Wakhan, during which many families are entirely cut off by freezing conditions, the rest of the year must be spent gathering enough supplies to make it through. This is subsistence living at its most basic, and sparing a child for school in such cases can be seen as an impossible luxury. But children who register for school and attend regularly now receive monthly support of wheat, a precious commodity that has proved hard to refuse. The program also serves to encourage girls to attend school in areas where a stigma may have otherwise kept them at home. The WFP has added an extra incentive by offering 2 litres of cooking oil a month to any girl registered for their program. For Qusay Mohammed, who travels by donkey with his family every 2 months to pick up the 4 litres of cooking oil and sacks of wheat his daughter has earned by going to school, the extra supplies make all the difference. With winter approaching, there is a slim chance that he will finish harvesting his crops in time, but he says that these extra supplies will see him through. The WFP's Food for Education program operates in 2,870 schools across the country. It also supplies food as a salary supplement to teachers who are often badly and irregularly paid. Traditional Japanese drums are usually a group effort. The larger instruments, which can measure nearly 2 meters in diameter, are played at least by 2 people. But Etetsu and Hayashi, one of Japan's best-known drummers, have broken away from tradition. He beats the leather surface of the huge drums using sticks which resemble small baseball bats rather than the smaller conventional drumsticks. He doesn't play at local festivals, but on stages in theatres and opera houses amidst a flood of spotlights. Hayashi, who has celebrated his 20th year as a professional drummer, made his Carnegie Hall debut in 1984. Since then, he has performed in Europe, Australia, Africa, Latin America and Asia, and collaborated with a variety of artists ranging from classical to jazz. He says that although his music has been inspired by encounters with other artists, it carries with it the aura of Japan. Hayashi has taken his drums to the United States for a series of concerts in New York. But between rehearsals and sessions in the recording studio, he spends time teaching the basics of drums and his brand of stage theatricals to people who are interested, with hopes that appreciation of this form of Japanese culture will grow. One of his more recent projects is one working with children who live on a small island in central Japan. He has made numerous trips to their isolated island to teach them the basics and has written drum songs for them to play. Some 80 years after the founding of Germany's Bauhaus, the famous design school is plotting a 21st century revival in a sprawling Rio de Janeiro shantytown known as Little Alligator. Building on its tradition of affordable goods for the masses, a new generation of Bauhaus disciples and innovative Rio officials are completing an urban development plan for the Jacarezinho shantytown. The project calls for the knocking down of a handful of cramped cement houses in a 2-block strip to bring light to the dank homes and open up courtyards for stores, theatres and a dance school. The Bauhaus School was a design school created in Germany in 1919. Their objective was to break with past architectural traditions and create new living spaces that reflected the industrial and modernisation trends of the times. But a stroll through this town in northern Rio shows the ambitious project is still very much in an embryonic phase. House lights are on 24 hours a day in the narrow streets, and splotches of mould cling to walls that never see the light of day. The urban cell has almost unanimous support from Jacarezinho's 50,000 residents, even those who may lose their homes in the short term. Bauhaus architect Rainer Wiesbach plans to clear away the houses to create squares that let in light, while new airy homes, shops and cultural centres will be built on top of existing structures. Almost 1/5 of Rio residents live in favelas or shantytowns that were seized by migrant labourers as temporary settlements, but that have become a permanent part of the city's landscapes. Hundreds gather in Pernik for the annual Mask Festival, a traditional ritual to drive away evil forces and ensure a good harvest and prosperity for local people. This festival has been organised in Pernik, 30 kilometres from Sofia, every year since 1965. But its origins date back centuries to pagan times, when hundreds of groups of masked men would visit homes of villagers throughout the country to perform ritual dances for the occupants' health, fertility and well-being. The rites that the dancers, or kukeri, perform are associated with the transition from the old to the new year and are aimed at driving away evil forces and spirits and making good wishes for a good harvest. The kukeri clothing is specially prepared for the feast and is different each year. The kukeri hoods and masks are magnificent, ornate and variegated works of applied art. Their performances combine theatre, lyrics, music, dance and art. The masks are judged by festival juries and a prize awarded to the creation deemed most original and decorative. However, although most regions rely on the furs and feathers of domestic animals and birds, the Durrell Wild Fauna Protection and Support Centre noted that villages from the Pernik, Radomir and Bresnik regions are increasingly using rare and protected bird and animal species to decorate their masks. The centre has launched an awareness campaign with funding from the Dutch Embassy in Sofia to stop the use of endangered species and promote the use of domestic furs and feathers, including a competition for masks which do not use endangered species. Festival organisers have been encouraged to favour the conservationists. The success of the project is yet to be determined. Auction house Christie's unveiled a painting from French artist Claude Monet that had never been on the market before. Monet's masterpiece, London Parliament, Effect of the Sun and the Fog, was first exhibited in Monet's 1904 exhibition in Paris and bought by a private collector. It had remained in the same family's possession since 1904, and it is therefore the first time in over 100 years that it was available on the market. Impressionist master Monet came to London 3 times to paint the House of Parliament, the Thames River and the city's most famous bridges. Between 1899 and 1904, he worked on a series of 19 oils at the Houses of Parliament. According to Christie's, of the 19 paintings, the one that was on sale was the most important, not least because it shows more of the buildings than almost all the others. The other paintings in the series are all in the world's major museums, and therefore will almost never appear on the market. Jussi Pelkonen, Christie's international director for Impressionist and modern art, believes the collectors of great paintings are keepers rather than owners. He said Monet was fascinated by the extraordinary light effects offered by London during the winter months. Whether the public will be able to enjoy the viewing of this painting remained to be seen. If the painting was brought by a private collector, it may disappear from the public's eye for another 100 years. Monet was born in France in 1840. He was one of France's greatest Impressionist painters. He became blind in 1908 and painted one of its most acclaimed works, The Water Lilies. 12 large canvases, half blind between 1916 and 1926. Monet died from lung cancer. It's called the Rocket War of Vrondados. Once a year during Easter, the parishioners of 2 Orthodox churches in the town of Vrondados on the eastern Greek island of Chios become for a short time opponents in a war like no other. As Easter Mass takes place, the 2 rival gangs fire thousands of handmade rockets filled with the ingredients used to make gunpowder across a valley at each other's churches. Days before the event is to take place, residents who have homes around the 2 churches wrap their homes in hundreds of meters of wire sheeting. They board up windows and doors. The force of the rockets is sometimes so strong it can puncture glass and wood and knock pieces off homes. Some residents whose homes are directly beneath the church have turned them into fortresses and complain that they are tired of repairing them every year after Easter. It is not only the force of the rockets, but the quantity that's fired. The tradition has become so popular that more and more rockets are fired each year. This year, more than 25,000 rockets were made, and making the rockets has become a cult on the island. The objective is to hit the bell tower of the opponent's church, but what ensues is a huge spectacle of streaking lights whizzing towards each other across the sky and filling the town with billowing smoke. Air raid sirens wail across the town to inform the inhabitants of the approaching rockets, as if in the wake of a World War II bombing, and thousands of people gather to watch as the rockets strike the churches of St. Mark and Pagnagia Erethiani. Inside the churches, the Easter Mass takes place despite the smashing of rockets against its walls, and churchgoers run to reach the church for Mass and watch their approach from the church's protective wire sheeting encircling the church. The sound of the church bells is drowned out by the popping and whizzing sounds of the rockets. The Rocket War is a tradition that dates back to the early 19th century at the time of the Ottoman occupation. Although the facts around its origin have been lost through time, the most popular legend that survives is the story of the island's sailors who used to battle pirates with cannons on their ships. When the sailors returned to the island, they brought back with them these small cannons and began a custom of firing them at the Easter holiday. In 1889, the Ottoman occupiers banned the custom and confiscated the cannons, fearing the cannons would be used in a revolt. The locals replaced the cannons with handmade rockets, and the parishioners of the two churches, who were always in competition with each other, added the competition that continues today. The tradition does not come without its dangers. Small fires have broken out in the valley nestled between the two churches, and the island's fire brigade swiftly rushes in to smother the fires ignited by stray rockets. It has also caused injuries, even deaths in the past, to those participating, and each year, safety measures are heightened by the local authorities.